Hello, friends, and welcome to a Maybe Text Jimmy preview podcast. Now, if you've been keeping up with us on whatever means it is that you decide to consume podcasts, this is not new content. I mean, you listening to me is new content, because my voice here is going to be YouTube exclusive. And also because it's kind of silly to have these things all the time. We're probably only going to see my voice in front of videos if we have an announcement to make. So this is our first episode, our preview podcast. This came out, we recorded, I should say, the week before Better Call Saul. Season 3 first aired, and it was our way of making certain that everything was good and kosher, and that we liked the way our voices sounded, and every episode going forward, the mixing would be right and good, and if you listen to the next episode, you'll find that that wasn't the case at all. But we hope that you'll enjoy it. We really, really do thank you for taking the time to listen to us. Especially if you happen to watch this video long enough for YouTube to count it as a like, that'd be even better. Especially if it's already something you've consumed before. Again, we really appreciate you. We make no money off of these. We are doing it for kicks and giggles, and hopefully because whoever it is that listens to us, you all, that you actually enjoy it. And we really think that you all are the best, and we thank you a lot. As far as release schedule for YouTube, something to keep in mind. I have to get the audio files from Aaron, and then I have to, make my video editor work. I know it's just audio files on top of picture, but it actually has to be submitted as a video, and it gets kind of squirrely sometimes. But so basically, you'll probably see the podcast pop up on iTunes and such Wednesday night, Thursday morning, per the norm. And you'll probably see YouTube videos pop up sometime before the end of Thursday. So thank you all again for tuning in with us, and here is the preview episode of Maybe Text Jimmy.
Alright, welcome listeners to Maybe Text Jimmy. This is a Better Call Saul podcast, and I'm Aaron.
And I'm Cody.
And if you think, wow, these guys already sound super professional and prepared, and they just have so much insight, but why haven't I heard them before? It's because actually this is our first time podcasting. Unless, do you have any secret podcasting experience I don't know about?
No. I'm the least qualified person to actually be on this podcast right now.
Not qualified at all, so here we go. We're going to give it a try. Well, we've actually, in all seriousness, wanted to try it for a while. At least I have, and TV seems as good a place as any to start, and I know we both really like the Breaking Bad universe.
Indeed.
And wanted to keep up with Better Call Saul as it airs live, so Season 3 is about to return. Seemed as good a place to start as any.
If you were hoping that I was going to fill something in there, then you were sorely mistaken.
Well, then we'll move on. Of course, we love the Breaking Bad universe. We've seen all of it, and all of the up-to-date Better Call Saul episodes. So if you're hoping to take your first foray into this universe in Season 3 of Better Call Saul, I wouldn't recommend that on its own, but also we're going to have full spoilers for the entirety of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. So I would advise you to watch Breaking Bad first anyway. Some people I've read started with Better Call Saul, but there's so many Easter eggs, and it's so much fun watching it after having seen the original Breaking Bad, that, yeah, we're not going to be able to avoid the spoilers, are we?
Yeah, and, I mean, you have to kind of consider that the entirety of the show is based upon... you can have this coaster if you want.
Trying to fuck up the disc.
Yeah, the entirety of the show is based around the Breaking Bad universe. If you don't have some kind of understanding for what's going on, then you're not going to be able to enjoy it nearly as well. I mean, yeah... Better Call Saul does include some new characters, so there is sort of a fresh start there, but you're going to see a lot of recurring faces, and especially going into Season 3, a major bad guy.
Yeah, it is a prequel. Yeah. You could technically do it, but it's not nearly as fun. But yes, and so spoilers are starting right now. Get out of here. Go watch Breaking Bad. Do it.
It's worth your time. I mean, I think...
It's on Netflix.
It is indeed.
Watch all of it.
I think that it is up there with The Sopranos and a couple others for the greatest.
And the first two seasons of this very show that we're covering is also on Netflix now.
Indeed. So
spoilers start right now. Gus Fring is back.
Indeed.
In this season. He is easily, if not, he's not the final boss, but he's the best boss of Breaking Bad.
He needed to be the final. I don't know. I don't even know if you and I have talked about this, but if Breaking Bad... and this being said, of course, I love the way the Breaking Bad ended. To have Walt be... you call Gus Fring not the final boss, but the best boss. I think that Walt being the quote-unquote final boss, I mean, he was ultimately fighting himself at the end, be it, physically or... internally. But Gus Fring, his entire arc was terrific. The final episode, and then, his whole two-face walk out of the... yeah, literal face-off. Walks out of the hospital room, just completely, half of his body is missing. It was cool, collected, and everything that you could possibly expect from this guy. And I'm very excited to see how he...
Any other show, any other character... gets his face blown off, walks out of the room, straightens his fucking tie. And we laugh the show out of the building.
Yeah.
But it was the rule of cool, and it was too cool. And Giancarlo Esposito, who plays Gus, walked out of the show. But I will say that in order for us to root against someone and for Walt by all the time at the end of the show and all the shitty stuff he had done, the just... generic neo-Nazis were fine. Like, he could... Vince Gilligan, I think, has said he didn't want to make another villain as cool as Gus because he needed people, like, not rooting for Walt, but, like, not rooting for someone else in his stead. Just seeing Walt's story fulfilled as opposed to someone else's. Because they had gotten into a lot of Gus's backstory, which I would be shocked if they didn't hear in Better Call Saul while bringing back.
Indeed. I mean, I feel like... Honestly, because they did poke at a little bit in Breaking Bad, but actually, I feel like we will probably see more from Los Pollos Hermanos.
Los Pollos Hermanos, those are super promoted in the trailer. There's a real Los Pollos Hermanos restaurant opening in New York.
Oh, you're shitting me.
That's honest. They might just sell curly fries because that's all been in the commercials. But yeah, let's see.
So that sort of... Well, it's not really the Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul history that we have sort of set out, but it kind of...
Let's see. I just wanted to talk about... Like, I had started watching it. I can't remember. It might have been you who told me about it. I can't remember who did. But it was like season 3 or something was airing at the time, and it had just popped on Netflix, so I was like, alright, it's on Netflix, so why not? And then the pilot happened, and he's leaving videos in the desert, and he doesn't have pants, and the pants are flying. And there's meth labs already, and I was like, all right, let's see what happens here. Actually,
I can tell you exactly. I should say I can tell you exactly how I found out about Breaking Bad. And it was actually not me. We were freshmen in freshmen in college. And we had just been sitting and we'd been meeting up for lunch. And you brought in your laptop and just say, you need to watch this. And you propped it open and pulled up this video, because at the time I was not even remotely close to cultured. I didn't know anything about popular TV. I had heard something about a drug show, but much like Dexter, which was, the murder show.
Drug shows and murder shows.
Yeah, drug shows and murder shows.
What are we teaching these kids?
All I see is just a man in a green button-up shirt that's partly open, and he is in his tighty-whities.
And it's the dad from Malcolm in the Middle.
Exactly, right? Hell? And I was like, well, sure, fuck, why not? And I don't regret it at all. Because I sat and I binged because at that point, season 4 had not yet aired, I believe, but I binged 3 seasons. And that was my actual first Netflix binge, and I regret absolutely nothing.
Okay, so it wasn't you that told me, it was the other way. I wonder who told me. I should thank them. But then, once it ended, about just as soon as the show ended, on a high note, a high-quality note, I'll say that. And then they were already talking about Better Call Saul, a spinoff with Saul Goodman, and we were all just like, no, leave the things we love alone, just let it be. And we didn't want it, and it was going to be like a 30-minute sitcom with Saul's crazy clients. We're just like, what on earth is happening? And then, finally, we saw the first episodes, and I was still shaky by that second one because they were just like having Tuco pop out. Just like, oh, it's going to be just Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould laughing at themselves. But then it came around, and we care about Jimmy, and we don't want him to turn in Saul, but we know he has to, and it's compelling again.
Yeah, honestly, that was... Because I recently went back, I watched through the majority of Season 2, and, the Season 2 largely starts off with, Jimmy starting to really question whether or not he... has a sense of morality in all this, if he might be, as others might say it, morally free. I believe that's
something like that.
Something to that effect. And it's like he's sitting here. He goes. He scams this stockbroker out of most likely hundreds of dollars. And it has to be hundreds of dollars, almost certainly, because it's $50 a shot tequila, and he's living it up.
That's Ken Wins,
indeed. And living it up and trying to determine whether or not... Because he sits there and he has the discussion in the poll whether or not he actually wants to be a lawyer, that he wants to sit and do something else, just see as it comes along. And then there's just this moment where it all clicks for him. He goes, he takes the cushy lawyer job. It's like, you know what? Like, I love this for him. Like, I felt good. I felt happy that he sat there. And probably one of my more favorite moments from that particular episode is... He walks in, and of course I'm going to sit here and tell the story and not remember the brand name that he sits and talks about, but he's got his little personal attendant. And he's like, well, is there anything that we can do for you? Maybe we can take this picture. We have a whole like storeroom full of these pictures. You can have what you want. It's like, no, says Saul.
The Coco Bolo desk.
Coco Bolo desk.
From the endangered rainforest wood or whatever.
Indeed. And so he's sitting there, he's like, no, I'm a simple man. I'm low maintenance. It doesn't... Do we get choice of desk? Could I have a Coco Bolo desk? It's like,
he gets whatever he wants.
God.
And he's miserable. 3 episodes later. My favorite part of that season was when he tries to get fired, or at least of Jimmy's arc, because Mike's kind of diverges a bit, which that's a concern. But, yeah, when he sees the inflatable man, and he gets inspired to get fired from there to keep his bonus, because he doesn't want to be a real lawyer. He wants to be a shady lawyer. And run his own, or at least at this point, he wants to run his own thing, or at least be partners with Kim in more ways than one. But he sees the inflatable man, and he had looked at those colory shirts before. He goes in, he gets the Saul clown suits, and people are like, "What the hell are you wearing?" He's like, "I love this stuff." And now he's turning into Saul. Speaking of, do we need to hear the name Saul Goodman in context by the end of this season?
I think so. I mean, at this point, outside of the fact that the name is literally in the title for the show.
That's the most confusing thing. That and the flash forwards at the beginning of every season. Confusing things for new viewers of Better Call Saul that haven't seen Breaking Bad. Because we know exactly what that's about. But, like, the dude's name is Saul. Where's Saul? He's not in the show. Anyway.
Well, I mean, because at this point, I believe we have heard Saul Goodman said once, and that was in the first season. That was just as his scam name.
That was
explaining it.
He was a flashback. Him and Marco where he was slipping Jimmy, and he was scamming people, and he was like telling this guy a joke. It's like, what's your name? Saul Goodman. Saul Goodman. Yeah, it's Saul Goodman, just as a joke. Yep. And so that's awesome that's where the name comes from, but we haven't heard it as a lawyer thing. So I wonder if like Chuck gets Jimmy McGill disbarred and then he changes his identity somehow but stays out. I don't know. I want to see it by the end of this season, probably like earlier. I want to see some Saul antics where in season 3 this can't run for more than 5. I wouldn't think. Yeah,
and I was actually sitting here thinking of that. What it's going to be, like how long the show is going to run, because we're, like you said, we're getting into the 3rd season. We're getting into one of the biggest bads of Breaking Bad. And I'm not entirely certain how... It probably has been discussed. How far in the past Better Call Saul is before Breaking Bad.
I think it's like 6 years or something.
Yeah, so...
Or maybe it started out 6 years and we're coming up. Because we could, in theory, have an interquel period where Saul's doing stuff and we just focus on him. And Walt and Jesse are coming around in the background. Which, hooray for cameos of... We have so many cameos already. I want Bryan Cranston. He directed one this year, I believe. He was at least on set.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. So maybe secret cameo?
I hope so. I mean, even if the cameo is just that he directed an episode, I'd be, at least for this season, I'd be okay with it.
Because his episodes in Breaking Bad were good.
Yeah, and, I don't even necessarily think that I need to see Bryan Cranston show up as Walt at all during the show, because Walt is largely unimportant. Up until the point where he is not, which is the start of the Breaking Bad story. Mm-hmm. Walt is unassuming, he is unimportant, he has no larger role to play, and he has no idea who Saul Goodman is. I mean, whenever Jesse first introduces him, he's...
Yeah, no reason to, just have them walk in the background or anything like that. I mean, once we get up to the story, you reshoot the scene where they've got Saul down on his knees in the desert, but just you're on Saul's face instead of Walt and Jesse in those crazy ski masks, and he's saying, he screams out, "Is this Ignacio? Did Ignacio send you? It wasn't me." Mm-hmm. And that's where they came up with the Nacho character, who still exists in this. So we have to find out why Saul would think that first instinct, Nacho's finally killed me.
Yeah. There will undoubtedly. I mean, because at this point, there is a point where the timelines have to cross, because we have got Cinnabon Saul.
Mm-hmm. We got to get back to Gene.
Yes.
That's what his name tag says in the Cinnabon things. That's the only reason I know, is because I've seen the episodes a billion times. But.
Yeah, but the timelines obviously cross. I think, though, if it does come down to where we are getting into where Walt is important and Walt actually belongs on screen, I don't even know that I want to see much of what Saul's doing during that, because I think that I think that how they carried Saul and what he was doing.
You think Walt's the big fish?
I think Walt is the big.
Him with other people.
I think Walt is the big fish during Breaking Bad. During Better Call Saul, I would much rather it be that they get to the point where Breaking Bad starts, and then just have a time card or something. It might even be just a refresher run, just a quick montage that just rapidly speeds up until we get to. He is sitting there, he's talking with his contact, he is ready to give up his life and go and be Gene, the Cinnabon guy. That is what that's what I would like to see. I think that's going to be the strongest way to do it, and it doesn't rely too much on fan service. I think if you start bringing Walter White and Bryan Cranston in too awful much, especially as a recurring character for Better Call Saul, it's just fan service at that point. That's needless.
Pretty much, yeah. You're not going to get Bryan Cranston as a recurring anything now. But I do think you could get a couple of good, funny Saul stories out of that time. Mm-hmm. Just even if you use the stock footage from Breaking Bad, just show Walt leaving and then cut back to new footage where Jimmy's there. It'll look jarring because Odenkirk's older now, and it's tougher to hide. Less so than on Mike, but
yeah. See, I don't know.
You could get a few funny cases out of that time period, I think.
The one thing I've been impressed with is how not old Odenkirk looks. Because if you look,
he looks fairly not old.
Yeah, they've done a pretty good job of unaging him. His hair is more full, especially in comparison with Cinnabon Saul or Cinnasaul.
True,
I'm gonna call him Cinnasaul.
Took all his hair away for that part. Meanwhile, Trout looking like he could crack any moment. But that actually makes sort of sense story-wise, because he's at a tough period in his life, and then we can justify, and they're not going to make Jonathan Banks sit around in makeup for hours just to be like, oh, cool, look how young he looks. But nah, because he's still great.
Yeah. My favorite, which I'm positive you've heard, you might even be the one that told me, I don't know, but the fact that Mike Trout almost didn't exist. Mm-hmm. That it was supposed to be the first scene that you see with Mike, he's going and he's bugging Walt's house, and that was supposed to be Saul.
Well, no, it was when he goes to help Jesse after Jane's died and clean up after her.
Was that the first time? I thought that the first time he showed up was
he bugs his house later in season 3 because Skyler. That's when Skyler knows, and that's why, because they're fighting.
See, because I don't know, and you might know better than I, but I'd always heard that Saul was supposed to be the one to go bug the house.
You're right. Well, supposed to go check on Jesse for Jane, but then Odenkirk couldn't be there, and so they created this character. He wasn't even called Mike, I don't think. He was just called, like, the cleaner. But then he, like, smacked Jesse around. Mm-hmm. Just like, you're not going to say anything. Don't be stupid. I've got your drugs. Where's some more drugs? And then he leaves. But then they brought him back because Jonathan Banks is awesome. And we got a character in now 2 series that we like.
Yeah, and I really like Mike as far as Better Call Saul. I almost feel like he's a little bit cornholed in, or I guess shoehorn is the better term. But just that he happens to be the security guard at the place where Saul happens to work, and so then they have that connection there. I don't know exactly how much. I mean, they needed to be in the same. They had to be in the same story because Mike knew Saul before Breaking Bad.
Yep.
So there had to be some way of getting it in, but for them to just kind of stick him as a major character like that, I'm not certain exactly.
I think Season 1 sold it better than Season 2.
Yeah.
But, like, in Season 2, they're doing their own thing. But, like, the groundwork's there for Season 3 for them to, like, bring him back. And I'm especially worried, something I hope improves is this disillusionment from the 2 stories. Like, we're cutting from Jimmy with, like, Chuck and Kim yelling about getting the dentist chairs out of their office, and these clients are old and in the way, and, Chuck's being a dick. And then we cut to Mike with a sniper rifle, targeting Hector, like, doing stakeouts, a completely different thing. And I never really found it jarring. It kind of worked, but I just think we're watching 2 different shows, in a way. And now we've got Gus, who everyone wants to see. Are they going to just do the Gus show and the Jimmy show and the Mike show and spread it too thin? Or combine?
Mike ends up being Gus's man anyway. I think what's going to happen is that Mike and Gus probably they're going to have the Jimmy, Gus, and Mike show for the first episode or 2.
And we know that Saul can't meet Gus.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a problem too. But I think, they're going to have Mike, like, do some jobs for Saul, but mainly be, like, learning what Gus is all about, and do you fit my crazy code of honor, the good criminals, bad cops thing. Which he does, we find out later in the next / previous TV show, Breaking Bad.
Yeah. I'm always happy to see more Mike badassery. Like, my favorite scene with him in actually Breaking Bad, I think that might be my favorite scene with him in general. I'm not quite sure. I'm not sold on this yet, so don't, like, hold a knife over my head. But it's I think it's Season 4, where they go... Mike is going into this... it's a factory. It's a building of some sort, and it's completely held down by these bad guys, thugs with guns. And he walks in, and there's this scene where there is a worker on the ground. He's on his knees. He's begging for his life. He's like, please don't shoot me. And then you kind of pan out. You see on the other side of the wall, directly next to Mike, is a guy with a gun. And he's getting ready to shoot him right as he walks in. And this worker is just sitting there like, no, wait.
Chow was the worker.
Chow. And just like, no, please, just stop. And, like, slowly raises his hands up so that Mike can aim his gun, and then power in there. Like, oh my, just that, moment.
He uses his hands to, like, Mike looks at him and, like, raises an eyebrow to be like, am I aiming at his head right now? And then he was like, no, he just raised his hands, and then pow, and he's done. And then Mike's like, what the hell is wrong with you? Call me when something wrong happens. Get her to the hospital, bye. And then, it's how Mike talks. And then, but with that being said, with the potentially 3 separate storylines, the thing I'm looking forward to most about this season is the return of Gus Fring. And I want to see more backstory, like, not necessarily more tragedy, like with Max at the pool and Hector, but we can't see him finish off Hector, as we've already seen that. We can see him lay the groundwork and come into his own as the Chicken Man, the meth Chicken Man. And it was, if you remember by the pool scene, he kills Max, but Max was the chemist, right? He was the one who knew how to make the meth really well. And Gus was the businessman. You would think you could get another businessman if you're the cartel, and you would need somebody who could know how to make meth. But he tells Gus, Don Eladio tells Gus that I didn't kill you because I know who you are. I know where you come from. And we find out that means like Gus is from Chile, and like Mike can't even find the records of him, and blah blah blah. And so like there were fan theories at the time that I read about after the show had been over that the Chileans were going to come back and like mess with Walt after Gus had died because it was going to affect that family ties or something. But they never came back around to it. So that's a dangling thread that they could revisit or could never ever touch on and leave us all hanging. So that's out there. Or we just see Gus and Mike develop.
No, there's no way we're not going to get a little bit more Gus backstory because, I mean, we only see him as a young man and everything else is just based upon what he tells us, reliable or no. I think that this season, if they're going to bring Gus back as a character, then they obviously have some plan to delve into his backstory. And yeah, I think we'll probably see what this Chilean connection.
Is that what you're looking most forward to?
I'm not actually certain.
A close second for me is to hear the name Saul Goodman Esquire, because we know he has the degree in his office in Breaking Bad. That it doesn't say Jimmy McGill Esquire. It says University of American Samoa, go Land Crabs. It doesn't say that on the diploma. I'm saying it on my own. But it says Saul Goodman Esquire. So does he have his name legally changed? Is that just like a goof like the rest of his office? The styrofoam columns and stuff? But that and Gus.
I think that Gus is definitely going to be something that I look forward to. Like I said, my favorite villain from the show. I think, though, that we are going to see more of that Saul, more of like the actual Saul character, and that's what I want to see more of. I want to see the namesake come back into the show, not back into the show, but come into the show. I want to see a little bit more of how he's going to create this persona because, there's no... Yes, he has the swindler backstory. Yeah, he's got that going for him.
Step by step, it's happening.
Yeah. And
he's a con man already. He's got the suits.
But I want to see what it is exactly, because there's something.
Inspired of inflatable devices outside of offices.
Yeah. I want to see what it is.
And he's got to lose Kim, because Kim doesn't like that stuff.
Yeah. And, she doesn't... You never see her outside of the show.
Never see her. She could exist. She could exist. Like in one of those Breaking Bad integral scenes, like use stock footage, you cut away, and it's Kim was in the corner of the office the whole time. But maybe not do it that way, but she could, in theory, exist. I don't think she does. I think Gene's going to go back for her. Like he's going to get so sick of Cinnabon that he's going to pull a Walt and just consequences be damned, charge to find his lady love, if she's not dead. I'd bet money Chuck's dead. By the Gene period.
Yeah, Chuck is certainly dead. And I am I don't know. I think that we're probably not going to see go back for Lady Love because I am inclined to believe that Lady Love does not exist at that point. She is probably going to get caught up in the drugs or with Gus. She is going to get caught by Gus.
Caught by Gus?
Something like that.
Kim gets caught by Gus?
Well, Gus is people.
What's she gonna?
What's
she gonna do to Gus?
That's just it. I don't know. I feel like there's gonna.
The timelines are already disparate.
They're going to
barely linked.
Yeah, I think that they are going to. There's going to be a point where she is going to, if she maintains this big part of Jimmy's life, then
which she's dating him, and then they start working together. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Go on.
Indeed. I think that if he's going to start working with Gus, again, like he's never going to personally meet the guy, but he's still going to be, quote-unquote, working with him, then she's going to catch wind of that. She's going to wonder who this guy is, and I think that she is probably going to get off at one point or another, and I don't think that there's going to be a lady love for him to go back to. I think that Saul is too self-important. He wants to be back in that limelight. I mean, the very first thing that we see out of this show, as far as the flash forward to Gene, is him going back and watching his old goddamn commercials.
That's true. Oh, those goofy commercials. Gimme Jimmy is so much better of a commercial. Ugh. But I guess it doesn't appeal to the gold in the streets folks that he's appealing to.
Yeah.
Later. Ugh. It's gonna be good. I don't know how Kim would get killed by Gus's people. Gus is pretty stealthy. Maybe she finds out about I don't know. She might die somehow. Ugh.
Even if it's not Gus, I think that she is going to be...
She's out of the picture by Gene times. You think?
I think so. I think that she is... Even if... Or, perhaps we could pursue another line of thought, because I'm sitting here thinking maybe something does happen that's bad. Saul has to come across his contact that makes people disappear, right? Like, it's not... obviously, if you're going to be a man in his position...
True. He has to find the vacuum cleaner man.
Exactly. So, yes, it might come up in the course of business.
Oh, goodness. I might see where you're going with this.
Yeah, exactly. If they... it might just be that they could write it off as he came upon the vacuum cleaner guy during the course of business, but I think that there might also be just as likely that he needs to, make someone disappear. Maybe that person's Kim.
Oh, goodness. I'd never thought that's... Ugh. Oh, shit. Kim gets disappeared.
That being said...
And he has to interrogate... Gene has to go back and interrogate Vacuum Cleaner Man. Where'd you put her?
Yeah, exactly.
I need her.
That Well, no, because I think that Vacuum Cleaner guy would have enough integrity not to...
No, I'm just kidding, but...
Well, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about... Say that he does make Kim disappear. In the good way, not the bad way. Make Kim disappear.
He doesn't send her to Belize. He sends her to Omaha.
Omaha.
Or an Omaha equivalent.
Yeah. But I feel like maybe the vacuum cleaner guy would have enough integrity not to be like, hey, for Saul to walk up and say, hey, I want to be disappeared with this other person. I had you disappear. Because I was originally going to say, well, why wouldn't they perhaps be disappeared together if that was the case? But, maybe a vacuum cleaner guy has standards. Maybe he doesn't want two known associates, two known affiliates working together. Or I should say living together where they could be easily identifiable. Because, that just reflects back on him. It's bad business, poor business. He's not going to be able to get more people to show up.
He didn't let Walt and Saul go together. Because he could kind of tell Saul didn't want to. Mm-hmm. But he was... Like, Walt was demanding it, and he was just like, y'all just take a minute. I'll wait. Y'all aren't both going.
Yeah.
All right. Well, some serious theory fodder we've gotten. We need to save some of this for the main cast once the episodes start up. So let's talk about that. The format we're going to try and do is we're going to recap the episode, go scene by scene, talk about each one individually, and we're going to have our three standouts, whether it's good things, bad things, a mixture, and we can hit them as we get to the scene, talk about them, or if they slip our mind, we go back to the list, we go to our three standouts. At the end, we sadly don't have any feedback channels up just yet, as if we need your guys' help for that.
Exactly. And as far as, where those might even exist, I mean, we've got a website up. We're going to be posting the videos on. And
ScreenTower.com. Not videos, just audio files so far. But ScreenTower.com. And at the moment, the only thing that'll be on there is the Maybe Text Jimmy podcast, maybe some other written posts in the near future. And also on Twitter, at Maybe Text Jimmy. Yes, I got the username, no numbers. Just exactly how it's spelled in the podcast title, logo. And you can also help us out by leaving us a positive review on iTunes, because iTunes, the monstrosity is still the beast of podcasts. There are other little niche ones. I use Pocket Cast. I don't use it, but that's iTunes is where you get noticed, get more feedback, more to do, bigger as a podcast, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I personally can't promise anything, but another friend of mine wants to get something going on YouTube, so we might find a way to put these up on YouTube as well. If you disagree or find iTunes or whatever Android, Google Play, podcast solution you might find those disagreeable, then, we'll try and get them up on YouTube too.
Several channels. All right. Well, that's the preview podcast in the bag, unless you've got another point that you don't want to save for the next one.
No, I don't know. We're trying to be a little bit different here. If we sat and we did every podcast just like every other podcaster out there, and at the end of the video it ended with, "Don't forget to hit that like button, punch that like." That's obnoxious. No one wants to hear
stupid.
that. We want to. I can guarantee you that every single one of you who has ever heard, "Don't forget to punch that like button," gives me revenue. You've never gone like, "Oh man, I was totally not going to like this podcast, but now that he's said like it, I'm totally going to do it." No, we want to be a little bit more. We have better integrity. We want to have something that you all enjoy listening to. This is, I think, I don't know about you, but whenever I imagine this, I would like it to be a very listener-directed podcast. If there's something that we do, please, and again, this is going to come back to the feedback channel, but if we do something that you dislike or you just cannot stand, which, it's the internet, trolls exist, I get that. But let us know. We want to make this podcast something that you want to listen to. And, if we continue going along with this and you want us to start talking about something else, like a different show, a different medium, I'd like to think that Aaron and I are both well-read. We're both pretty tech-savvy as far as, what's going on in the world. We'll talk about whatever you want us to talk about. It's just, I think that this is a good, fun avenue for us to sort of pursue.
Finding our footing.
Exactly.
All right. Looking forward to your all's help.
Did we talk about when we're going to be putting them out?
Oh,
yeah.
We did not. So the plan currently, as this is our first podcast, we're still figuring out how to get this all up reliably. The show airs Monday. We plan on having our episodes up the Wednesday or Thursday after that airs every week. Mm-hmm. So look for that on iTunes or whatever podcast feed you have, or check the website, and we'll be sure to remind you of that every time. And with that, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Cody.
And definitely do hit the like button, though.